All right, everyone. Well, good evening and welcome to the City of Temecula's housing workshop this evening. We're really excited to have everybody turn out. We did a lot of outreach to get folks out here, so we appreciate coming out this evening. We're not going to belabor the point. We're going to jump right into the presentation tonight. The way the format of the meeting is going to be going tonight is we're going to do our presentation, talk about the housing element process and the workshop. And really, at the end of the presentation, we're going to make staff and our consultant available, who I'll be introducing in just a moment, to answer your questions or guide you to the place where you can find some answers to your questions. We do have some things pinned up in the back of the room for you to view, and then we do have copies of the draft public housing elements available. I'm going to leave those copies here, so don't take those with you because I don't have enough for everyone. The housing element is available online, and you can view that at any time. Just some housekeeping things. If you do need the restrooms, we do have them open for you back there, so please feel free to step in and out as you may need to for that. So let's jump right into the presentation. I've got Amanda from De Novo Consulting. They'll be doing this presentation. Amanda works on housing elements throughout the state, and we're very lucky to have them and their team here, and she's a great resource and knows a ton about this information, so I'm looking forward to giving you that one-on-one time after her presentation today to ask any questions. And with that, Amanda, come on up.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Brandon. I'm Amanda Tropiano, principal with De Novo Planning Group, and I get the pleasure of working with agencies throughout the state on projects like their housing elements and other general plan elements as well. So we've got a brief presentation tonight and really just kind of setting the stage for understanding what a housing element is, why the city of Temecula is updating it right now, and how this plan really helps set the stage for the next 8 years in terms of the city's housing goals and priorities. So just by show of hands, did any of you have the opportunity to participate in our virtual workshop at the end of 2020, where we kind of went through some of the background information like income levels and demographics and other information on the virtual platform? Okay, a few. So some of this information is going to be a little duplicative of that. I'll be presenting some background information and then really trying to focus most of the presentation on the new information regarding the draft housing element. All right, so with that, we are kind of in the tail end of the city's housing element update. So the effort really began in late 2019, early 2020, with a review of existing conditions, analyzing the success of past programs and policies, and then really engaging the community in a meaningful discussion about what people want to see in terms of housing choices over the next 8 years. We've been working hard to prepare a public draft housing element for review and circulation, and we'll be facilitating a series of public meetings with your Planning Commission and your City Council this fall, and then going through the state review and approval process. So really during this time, the city has worked tremendously hard to engage the community and implement a really meaningful outreach program to solicit input from your residents, businesses, stakeholders, and other community members to understand the priorities for housing. It's been a little challenging during the COVID period, but we've worked really hard to try and get everyone folded into this process. There's a dedicated webpage on the city's website at temeculaca.gov/housing. We facilitated a number of housing surveys where we've collected responses that have helped inform our draft housing element, numerous emails to key stakeholders and other interested parties that have signed up for future advertisements, facilitated an online virtual workshop, both in English and Spanish, in late September of last year, and then tonight's open house on the draft housing element. We've also provided a newsletter sent to every resident that included an early article about the housing element project, social media posts, working with the city's economic development department to distribute email advertisements, emails to stakeholders, news spots on Channel 3, et cetera, et cetera. If there's anything that you think we could do as part of this public review process to further advertise this information, we are all ears. So please let us know if there's anything else we can do to get the word out. So the housing element is essentially the city's plan to meet what we call its fair share of regional housing growth as determined by the state of California. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on the future slides. Determination of a city's fair share really begins with the state identifying the number of housing units it projects needs to be developed over the planning period, which is for 8 years. So every 8 years, the state comes up with a new target of housing units that need to be accommodated throughout the state. And then the state distributes a portion of that overall statewide number to each regional agency. So down here serving the city of Temecula is the Southern California Association of Governments, or you might have heard them called SCAG. SCAG then takes an allocation from the state and it distributes them to their member agencies. There's 197 agencies that are part of SCAG. So Temecula is one of them, and it receives its allocation through that regional organization. SCAG develops a whole huge methodology about who gets what and how many housing units get allocated to each individual jurisdiction. And that methodology is based on a number of factors, including things like socioeconomic information, like population trends and growth trends, the household income of your existing population, and other your home prices, commute patterns, proximity to jobs and services, and other sorts of factors like the number or percentage of your current residents overpaying for housing or living in overcrowded conditions. So the city of Temecula has experienced substantial growth over the last 20 years, really from 2000 to 2018, the city grew at an annual growth rate of about 3.8%. Compared to the rest of the county of Riverside, that was really, the county as a whole was experiencing a growth rate of about 0.5%. Most of the significant growth occurred in the early part of the 2000s, but the city continues to grow year over year. Even though that trend has slowed a little bit, the city is still certainly planning to accommodate additional housing in the coming years. Temecula has a lower percentage of renters than the SCAG region as a whole. A higher percentage of the residents here in your communities own their homes. But your renters are typically newer residents. So people just moving to the community, maybe trying to find an affordable housing option in the rental market before looking to put down roots and purchase a home. Since 2000, the city has added a variety of different housing types to its stock, including single-family homes, mixed-use projects, and multifamily developments. But proportionately, the city's a higher percentage of single-family homes than other communities in the region. The city's vacancy rate, this is pre-COVID, vacancy rate is about 5.5%, and the average household size is just over 3 people. It's pretty in line with the region, and but the vacancy rate for your rental units is a little higher. So just kind of speaks to the individuals that are looking to call Temecula home and the opportunities provided here in your local community and in the region. Now, home prices, I'm sure for those of you that have grown with the community, you can attest that they have increased significantly over the past number of years. So looking back to about 10 years ago in 2011, the home prices have really risen steadily during that time. And in 2020, the median home price was about $500,000. That's 22% higher than the county as a whole. So definitely attractive and desirable place to be, and the home prices reflect that. Translating that into what a household needs to earn in order to afford a home of that average home price, a household needs to make about $125,000 a year, which as a household is about $62 an hour to afford that median home price, assuming all sorts of standard assumptions like they're putting 20% down and average affordability levels. Thinking about back in 2011, a household only needed to make about $97,000 a year to afford the median home price at that time. So the home prices here are getting more expensive and they're getting more difficult for families to afford. In July of 2020, the average rent in Temecula was about $2,000 a month. That was about a 14% increase from the prior year. And rent rates have also been increasing really for all unit types and sizes. And today we're at a 10-year peak in terms of home prices and rental prices. Almost a quarter of Temecula's residents spend more than half of their income on housing. So when we started talking about how much someone needs to make in order to afford the average home prices here, a lot of your residents are spending a little bit more than would be expected in order to afford their homes. All right, so getting back to the discussion about regional need and how we plan for future development. So Temecula receives that allocation of regional growth, its fair share. That's called the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or your RHNA. And you get that from the Southern California Association of Governments. And it's the city's obligation to demonstrate that it has sufficient land available to accommodate its RHNA. So the state says, SCAG, you need to plan for, in this planning period, 1.3 million households. And then SCAG says to the city of Temecula, okay, your portion is about 4,000 units. So you tell us how you accommodate that type of development within your community. And more than just the whole number, it also provides some direction on affordability levels. So RHNA is not just a round number or a total number of units the city needs to plan for. It's really broken down into different household income categories. So it's based on predetermined income limits set by the state of California, but using a family of 4 as a benchmark. The city is responsible for demonstrating some portion of its RHNA is affordable to very low income households. Those are households that earn 50% of the area median income, which in 2020 for Riverside County was just over $75,000. If you think about that in terms of whole numbers, that's a family that earns about $19 an hour. A portion of the units need to be available for families earning between 50 and 80% of that area median income, and that's around $31 an hour. A portion need to be available for moderate income families, which is anyone earning 80 to 120% of the median income, and that's about $46 an hour. And then the remainder serves the above moderate income households. Those are households earning 120% or more of the area median income, which is more than $46 an hour. So I had indicated earlier that the city's 2021 to 2029 RHNA for this planning period was 4,183 units. And about half of these units are identified to serve the needs of those very low or low income households. So you can see that distribution on the screen here. About 1,359 for very low income, 801 low income households, 778 moderate income, and the remainder about 1,255 for above moderate income. So what types of housing options meet these different income levels? So first and foremost, the city of Temecula, in and of itself, does not build housing. The private market builds housing, private market builds affordable housing, it builds market rate housing, and everything in between. Yes, public funds can be used as an incentive to adopt affordable housing restrictions as part of affordable housing projects that require the units that are affordable to be deed restricted for a period of time, like 55 years. But it's really, again, the city's responsibility to set the stage for the private market to develop housing based on current market conditions. So the private market comes in and looks at the city's housing element and its other general plan elements, specific plans and zoning, and it responds to the development opportunities available on specific sites. Different homes come in different shapes and scales, sizes, colors. I think we've all lived in a bunch of different types of homes in our life. So different people at different stages in their life want to live in different types of homes. There are different things that attract people in terms of maintenance, style, quality, location, and communities that really offer a diverse range of housing choices can help residents find the right choice for them. It also is an opportunity to serve the needs of your business community and potentially attract new employers that are looking to have housing options close by their jobs so that their workers have a variety of options available to them. So there are different ways that these housing units can look. You can have everything from an accessory dwelling unit that lives on the same lot as a single-family residence, duplexes, single-family homes, multifamily homes, or mixed-use homes where businesses and residences locate either on top of each other or near each other. Affordable projects can also look the same as market rate projects. They don't have a lot of differences on the outside. A good developer and good support from the community and from your city staff can help ensure that a project's, no matter the affordability level, all reflect the design preferences of the community. So the housing element also includes a review of past accomplishments. So the city of Temecula has been doing a wonderful job in helping to meet its past regional housing goals. So the draft housing element includes a discussion of the city's accomplishments of past programs and evaluates their success in order to determine if they need to be modified or refreshed as part of this new draft element. In general, the city's goals and policies continue to be pretty valid. They continue to reflect the community's vision that we heard through the virtual workshops and other feedback, but some existing programs have been revised and others have been added really to comply with state law, particularly affirmatively furthering fair housing, regarding the role of the city in identifying adequate sites to accommodate its RHNA, some future direction on development code updates and other legislative requirements, and we'll go through those. Since the city updated its housing element 8 years ago, it has adopted the city's affordable housing overlay zone and has entitled projects successfully using the affordable housing overlay. So this is a program that didn't exist back in 2013, was adopted during that time, and is resulting in the production of new affordable units. The city continues to support regional partners and programs like the Riverside County Continuum of Care and other nonprofit organizations that work with the city in order to provide affordable housing choices. It's also issued requests for proposals to develop various city-owned sites specifically for affordable housing. There's been a robust update to the city's accessory dwelling unit ordinance and the preparation of educational materials for the community to learn more about this opportunity. And then focused efforts on preserving affordable housing stock that already exists, including the rehab and upgrade of the Rancho California apartments and renewal of its Section 8 contracts. So during the 2014 to 2021 RHNA period, the city will have produced just under 1,900 housing units. That's 127% of its total fifth cycle RHNA. So just like our sixth cycle, our 2021 to 2029 RHNA is about 4,100 units for this period. And the prior period, the allocation was about 1,500 units. So the city has far surpassed the production of units beyond what was required to be planned for as part of the prior period. So looking forward, the draft housing element is divided into two sections and then a few appendices. So the first section is called Part 1. That's the city's housing plan. That's the nuts and bolts, your goals, policies, and programs. So what types of policies and programs are in place to guide decision-making regarding housing over the next 8 years? The Part 2 of the document is what we call the background report. And this is all of that information I described: a review of past programs, an assessment of housing needs, presentation of socioeconomic information, a review of appropriate sites, and all the technical analysis that goes into that. All of that is included in the Part 2 background report. That section also includes a discussion of constraints, both governmental and non-governmental constraints. So government constraints are things like the city's zoning requirements or development standards, parking standards. But then there's also constraints to development that are outside of the government's control, things like the cost of land or access to financing. Part 2 also includes a description of resources available to help actually produce affordable housing projects here in the community. So like I had mentioned, the draft housing plan, so it's part one, it revises some of the city's existing goals and policies to reflect state law, including the provision for special needs housing, furthering the reduction of constraints related to governmental and non-governmental factors, and affirmatively furthering fair housing, basically saying everyone deserves a safe and fair place to live free of prejudice or discrimination. The draft housing plan also includes new policy direction that is related to demonstrating the city's ability to maintain adequate sites available to meet its RHNA, and some additional guidance regarding the reuse of sites that have been identified in prior housing elements. So the housing plan includes a few revisions to existing programs that really reflect the community's input we heard through the engagement process. Those specifically include the programs related to land use policy and development capacity, ensuring that the density bonus ordinance continues to reflect current state law, new information regarding energy efficiency and energy conservation, new programs available to help reduce or mitigate development fees, and further promote equal housing opportunity. There are a number of new programs that really help kind of set the stage for additional work efforts. Some of these are programmatic in that it's happening with city staff and the way that they monitor and track progress towards the city's reporting requirements. So program 2 requires the city to maintain adequate sites through the planning period, and it's really kind of a numbers and reporting process that is required to ensure that you can kind of check in on that on a periodic basis. There's also new requirements related to the conversion of public property to future housing, the replacement of affordable units, new efforts to promote and accelerate the production of accessory dwelling units, special needs housing production, some zoning code amendments to ensure compliance with state law, and then some other supplemental programs to help proactively plan to assess any fair housing issues. So I'm going to just close with a description of the city's sites inventory. So we've got that 4,100 and some change housing units that we're planning for. I just want to be super clear here that the city has adequate sites to accommodate its RHNA at all income levels without any efforts to rezone or redesignate sites. The city's done a really, really good job of planning to accommodate a range of housing types, facilitating a range of income levels, and as a result of all of that hard work, this housing element really just summarizes the available land to develop these housing options. We get to look at housing units that have been developed since July 1st of this year. I know that's not a whole heck of a long time and not a whole heck of a lot of units, but 6 weeks, and we get to take credit for those. We also get to look at units that are approved but not yet built. We get to look at accessory dwelling units or junior accessory dwelling units and the projected development of those for the 8-year planning period. And then we really looked at only vacant sites, so sites in the community that don't have any development on them, that are inside of specific plan areas and those that are outside of specific plan areas. And we've kind of divided those out so it's clear exactly what percentage of these units are within specific plans or outside of specific plans. And these include areas designated with that affordable housing overlay that I talked about earlier. So there's a lot of information on the screen. This is a summary of a table available in the draft housing element, and it basically describes point by point how each of those housing opportunities help to accommodate a portion of the city's RHNA. So if we're starting with about 4,193 units, we can look at credits for projects that have been developed or are in process, about 159 units, projecting out the development of around 144 accessory dwelling units over the course of those 8 years. Vacant land outside of specific plan areas that's zoned for residential uses can accommodate about 3,400 units. And then vacant land inside your specific plan areas can accommodate about 5,773 units. As you can see, the city's been able to demonstrate that it actually has a little more capacity than the minimum requirement it's required to plan for, and we call that a surplus. So there's a surplus of available land to accommodate the city's RHNA at all the various income levels, and that's a good thing. This is a description of the map that's posted in the background and just illustrates, using the city's current zoning designation, those sites that are currently vacant and identified as being appropriate to accommodate the city's RENA. So that concludes my presentation and the presentation. There's going to be a few ways for you to provide feedback and comments to us. We're getting started on the beginning of a 30-day public review period for the draft housing element. So today is the start date. The final date's going to be September 15th. And that happens to coincide with the scheduled Planning Commission date on the draft housing element. So as a last hurrah, if you haven't had an opportunity to provide a comment, you're able to do that through the public hearing process. We have comment cards available in the back that you can fill out and leave with myself or with staff. You can submit an email comment to Brandon at the email address on the screen. He also has his contact information available tonight. You could send written comments here to City Hall, or again, attend the public hearings with your Planning Commission or your City Council. And I think with that, we really appreciate your time tonight. We're going to kind of break up the presentation because everyone's going to have different questions and different answers we can provide. So we're going to be here all night until we have the opportunity to answer any questions you guys have. So thank you again so much for your time. And we'll be sticking around the back.